All right, before we get started with testimony, let me just first inquire, is your title officer or detective or?
It was detective. I have since retired.
Okay, so I'll just refer to you as Officer Stubbs, even though retired, but Officer, this case has been live streamed as well as open to public access for the trial. And there is an exclusionary order by the court. I want to inquire, have you watched any of the trial proceedings since the case began?
I have not.
Okay, and have you discussed with anyone else their testimony in the trial that's been given?
No, I have not.
Okay, thank you for confirming that. Mr. Wood, you can inquire.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you state your name and spell it for the record?
First name David, last name Stubbs. Spelling of last is Stubbs.
And I think we just heard you say you've retired from law enforcement. Is that fair to say?
That's correct. About 3 months ago.
What's your current occupation?
I am a specialty mechanic.
Before you retired, what was your occupation in law enforcement?
I was a police detective, more so sergeant, which I was a supervisor in the detective division.
And how long had you been a supervisor in the detective division?
Boy, several years, 6-8 years.
Do you know how long you were a detective?
Since about 2010.
So were you post-certified?
Yes, I had post-certification.
After post-certification, did you continue to receive training in law enforcement?
Yes, numerous trainings were required by post to keep our training up to date as well each year.
As the supervisor of detectives, what was your role?
So my role as being a supervisor would have been keeping track of the other detectives' caseloads, assigning cases, time management for our division. Also, when required, assist other detectives in their casework, helping them out in whatever way I could.
Have you ever worked for a law enforcement agency other than the Rexburg Police?
Yes. Did some time with Teton County Sheriff in Teton County. Small amount of time with the college police when they were a police force up there in Rexburg as well.
In total, do you know how many years you spent in law enforcement?
Total would have been in roughly 30 years.
In your training, have you been trained at all in working with cellular devices?
Yes. Customarily in our department, each detective will have a specialty area. I did work computer cell phone forensics and got special training in those areas.
And what did that entail? What type of work would you do with cellular devices?
Well, based on the way the world is going now, a lot of things we do with our daily lives involve cell phones, computers, the scheduling of things, emails, etc.
And so were you trained on any type of software for cell phone or computer extraction?
Yeah, I was Celebrite forensics, magnet forensics, access data forensics. Also attended multiple trainings in sailor location and things like that.
I'm sorry, did you say cellular location?
Yes.
Can you just briefly tell the jury what Cellbrite is?
So Cellbrite is a forensic software that basically can dig deeper into a computer device other than the things you could maybe commonly see just on a computer itself. If you were to take a regular computer, there's things you wouldn't be able to see. A forensic software will look in more detail and look for things that may be hidden or deleted, and then process those and make understanding of those.
Mr. Wood, can we get a spelling on Cellbrite if it is there for the record?
Yes, and if I can ask the detective to spell it.
Cellbrite.
And you mentioned using Cellbrite or Celebrite with computers. Can you use that software with cell phones?
So Cellbrite more, it can do computers. It can do, any kind of computer device, but it is more specialized in doing cellular devices and tablets, things like that.
Okay. Detective, were you involved in the investigation regarding J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan?
Yes, I was.
How did you come to be involved in that?
So my first involvement probably would have happened November 1st, 2019, where we were contacted by authorities in Arizona that were investigating a attempted shooting of a gentleman named Brandon Boudreau. They had requested that we, due to the information they had found, that we look for a gray Jeep with Texas license plates at 565 Pioneer Road because it was a vehicle of interest in that shooting. Therefore, we went and in that area, several officers from different agencies, Fremont, Rexburg, namely, to do surveillance and look for that Jeep for authorities in Arizona.
And did you personally take part in that surveillance?
Yes, I did.
When did you do that?
That would have been, like I said, on the 1st, and it was on and off throughout the day. We would kind of take, if you will, shifts with other officers, but throughout that entire day, we were looking for that Jeep at that location.
In doing that surveillance, did you ever have occasion to see Chad Daybell?
Yes.
What day was that?
That was on the same day, the 1st.
Okay. And where did you observe him?
Observed him and Lori Vallow exit the residence. They proceeded to get into a blue Subaru car with Arizona license plates. At that time, where we had not seen the Jeep yet, we decided that because they were people of interest in this investigation for the Jeep, we decided to follow that Jeep and see if they would, that car, and see if they would lead us to where the Jeep might be located. So we followed the two of them.
Where did you follow them to?
Ultimately, we followed them to Idaho Falls, where they first made a stop at Mountain America Credit Union. They then proceeded through the parking lot, which was adjoining to Hobby Lobby, which is a more of a craft type store there, where they parked the vehicle and exited and headed toward the store.
And you say we. Do you recall who you were with?
There was two Fremont officers, Thad Gardner and Joe Powell, that were also in a different vehicle, but in the same vicinity.
All right. And Your Honor, I apologize. I should have asked for this before the witness started. May I be handed State's Exhibits 36A and B?
Yeah, we'll get those to you, Mr. Bailiff, please, and Madam Clerk. What are the two exhibits, Mr. Wood?
I thought they were listed as 36A and B, but it sounds like there's just a 36B.
We do have 36B. And we don't have a 36A at this point. I don't think admitted.
Your Honor, 36B will suffice.
Okay.
Detective, you stated that you performed surveillance and saw the defendant with Lori Vallow at Hobby Lobby, correct?
Yes, exited the vehicle and headed toward the store, yes.
Were you able to observe their behavior together?
I was.
What was it?
So as soon as they exited the car, this would have been on the 1st of November, I witnessed them hold hands. They were smiling, laughing, joking with each other from my vantage point. And occasionally, as they approached the store, I saw Lori would place her head on Chad's shoulder, and as they walked toward the store, and then entered the store.
In Your Honor, may I publish State's Exhibit 36B?
Yes.
Detective, do you recognize State's Exhibit 36B?
I do.
Do you know when that picture was taken?
Yeah, that would have been November 1st, 2019, from my vehicle.
Did you take that picture?
I did, along with several others similar to this one.
All right. Who's pictured in State's 36B?
On the left in the blue shirt would have been Chad Daybell in what appears to be a black jacket. To his right would be Lori Vallow.
After the Hobby Lobby, did you observe them go anywhere else?
So at this point, after they entered the store, I left the area, and the other two officers stayed there to observe when they came out. So this was the last time I observed them that day.
Were you involved in any other surveillance on Lori Vallow? Or was that it?
As far as surveillance goes, that was the only time I, was under surveillance with them.
And you stated, correct me if I'm wrong, the purpose for this was looking for a specific Jeep.
That is correct.
Are you aware if that Jeep was found?
So not that day, but it was discovered a few days later on the 4th of that same month, outside that same residence we were observing.
At that point, what next involvement did you have in the investigation regarding JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan?
The next time that I would have had contact would have been that same month, but on the 26th of that month, 2019.
And that month is November, correct?
That is correct.
What happened on November 26, 2019?
So we had gotten a request to do a welfare check on one of Lori's children, JJ Vallow, at the request of his grandmother, Kay Woodcock. She had not heard from him in some time and had requested law enforcement go and check on his well-being. Therefore, on the 26th, other officers and myself went to that 565 Pioneer Road, number 175, to attempt to make contact with her.
And what was your specific involvement that day?
So my involvement, whereas I discussed before, as a supervisor, helping other officers out in my division, they had requested that we come over and try and help them.
Can I interrupt you? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You say they. Who was they?
That would have been Detective Hermosillo and Detective Hope.
And then you said we. Who was we?
Myself and Detective or Lieutenant Ball proceeded over there to help them try and locate the child.
And do you recall approximately what time you went over to 525 Pioneer Drive?
It would have been, I believe, the late afternoon.
What did you do when you got there?
When we got there, myself and Lieutenant Ball approached apartment 175, where we were told Lori was living, and knocked on the door to try and make contact to see if she could tell us where her son was and his condition.
And were you able to make contact with Lori Vallow?
Yes.
How did that conversation go?
We knocked on the door. She answered. We told her that we were there inquiring about her son, JJ, and his well-being, that there was some concern that the grandmother had not heard from him in quite some time. And she invited us in to discuss the matter.
All right. Were you wearing a body cam on that day?
I was.
Did you record that conversation with her?
I did.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask that the witness be handed State's Exhibit 59. And a courtesy copy has been provided to the court and counsel.
Thank you.
Do you recognize State's Exhibit 59?
I do.
What is it?
It is a flash drive with the content on it would be my body cam from that first visit that day with Lori Vallow at her residence.
And have you reviewed that specific flash drive today?
Yes, I have reviewed this flash drive.
Did you initial that flash drive?
I did.
Did you do that upon review of it?
After viewing, yes, I initialed it.
And you stated that it contains your body cam from November 26, 2019, correct?
That is correct.
And is it a true and accurate representation of the recording your body cam made?
Yes,
And is it a true and accurate representation of what you recall that day?
it is.
Your Honor, I'd ask that State's Exhibit 59 be entered into evidence.
Any objection?
There would be no objection from the defense, Judge.
All right, Exhibit 59 is admitted.
So, Detective, you stated that you went into Miss Daybell's apartment, or Miss Vallow, Lori Vallow's apartment.
Yes.
And what did you talk with her about?
We advised her that the reason we were there was of concern of Kay Woodcock, that she had not heard from her grandson, and that we were there just to make sure he was okay with a welfare check.
And did Lori tell you where JJ was?
She advised us at that time that JJ was not there and that he was currently in Arizona staying with her friend Melanie Gibb.
Was there anyone else in the apartment with her?
So upon entering the apartment, we asked if anybody else was in the apartment, and she advised that her brother, Alex Cox, was there.
Did you have occasion to speak with her at all about Chad Daybell?
Yes, we asked her if she knew Chad Daybell, to which she said Chad was her brother's friend.
Your Honor, I would ask for permission to publicize State's Exhibit 59.
You can publish 59.
Detective, do you recognize this as your body cam that you were testifying to?
Yes, is my body cam. I had it on my left shoulder. I don't hear any volume to this.
Your Honor, we have a technical issue. The
Okay,
volume on the computer is up and on the player.
is this at a stage where there's audio yet on the file?
Maybe continue until maybe.
Click halfway, just see. Usually the first minute of body cam is set. Yeah, so no, it's not that. May I? Can
Do whatever you want.
we're gonna have to do it. Please.
All right, thanks for
Your
the
Honor, I can put
assistance.
the microphone up to the computer.
Go ahead.
Her car's out there too. What? In the back, it's blue. Blue Subaru. Hi. You always. Lori, I'm Lieutenant Ball, Police Department. How are you? You got a minute? You alone or you got help?
My brother's here.
Okay. This is Detective Stubbs. Hello.
See you.
So, we're here.
Yeah, this is a big mess. I just talked to the guy on the phone.
And what did he ask you?
He was just saying that he wanted to do a well check on JJ.
So, JJ would be where?
He's in Arizona.
Who's he with in Arizona?
He's with one of my friends in Arizona.
Oh.
Hi.
Oh, you got a notepad?
No, oh, you want?
No. Come here. Mind if he comes in?
Oh,
So,
sorry.
who's the friend he's with?
My friend Melanie. Her son has autism. Her name's Melanie Gibb. I gave him all the information on the phone.
Okay, so he can call.
Yeah.
Perfect. Discord.
Yeah. What is all this?
We're a little
What is it?
concerned
Right.
because, well, the officers who were here earlier
Yeah.
were checking and they got a bad vibe that like something was going on here because nobody knew anything about a child. They weren't talking.
It's because a
What's
lot of
going
stuff
on?
that was going on. If you want to know, it's a lot of stuff. So
Well, that's why we're concerned because it just was kind of weird.
it is very weird. I've had to move around a lot. One of my brothers is trying to kill me. Not the brother that lives here, obviously. He's kind of my protector. My other brother that was in with my husband who was trying to kill me for my $2 million life insurance policy.
No.
So a lot of stuff has gone on in this last year. It's been a horrible year for us. I've had to move around. And so I was going to move back to Arizona, put my son back into the school there because I tried to put him in school here, public school at Kennedy.
Okay.
He went for 2 months. We tried it, but he had such a hard time. Now, the person who called is my sister-in-law, but she's his natural grandmother. He's adopted by us. Okay, so her son, who is a drug addict, had a baby with a girl who's a drug addict, and they took him from, CPS took him.
Okay.
Gave him to the grandmother. She came and got him, and then she wanted us to adopt him, which we did. And we loved him.
By
and he
us.
took-
Who we talking
My
about?
husband and I, who died earlier this year.
Okay.
He passed away. Since he
Sorry.
passed away, she's been trying to fight me for him and being really horrible to me and that kind of stuff. She's kind of the paternal friend.
Okay, thank
Does
you.
that make sense?
That's
I'm
what I
sorry.
mean. The paternal grandmother.
He has autism and ADHD. He doesn't really talk to people. Like he's very special needs. So I had him in a special needs school there. She was trying to, so what happened was my husband, who we were married for 15 years and had raised all these 5 kids together, switched his life insurance policy to her, right? To his sister,
Okay.
who got $1 million when he died. And we got nothing for me to raise JJ, and all the kids got nothing, and everybody got nothing. She got $1 million. So I knew she was going to try to sue me for him, or
JJ?
yeah, because she now has this $1 million, so she can hire people to help him, and I have nothing.
But you have
nothing,
legal
but
custody.
he's my son. I adopted him when
Right.
he was 2 years. We had him from the time he was 8 months old till 2 years old. So she does nothing and wants to cause me trouble. So I don't tell people the truth about where we are and what we're doing because of those reasons. So I look like a suspect, but I am a good person. Raised all of my kids. I've done everything that I'm supposed to do in life, but everyone is causing me trouble right now. So
We don't want to cause a lot of trouble. How long have you been here?
we've only been here since September.
Okay.
We moved up here in September. My daughter's going to BYUI.
Your daughter goes to BYU?
Yeah.
Does she live here?
So it's been a nightmare, but I'm gonna go back to Arizona so I can put him back in the special needs school. He couldn't do the school here. It was too hard for him. He would scream and cry, take him to school. The principal would have to come out, try to drag him out of the car. Like, it just was too hard. But I just don't tell people where I am. I don't tell her where I am ever. And she doesn't have any legal rights to anything. Like, she's been horrible to me since my husband died.
My understanding, she never called you to try to get the child, hey, I'm interested in the child back, but
I know, but she sends me these emails with like the date and like she's putting up court stuff, like she's documenting, I haven't heard from him in all this time, and so I've told her that he's fine, but
See, and we hadn't heard any of that as far as,
I'm just saying she's doing this as part of that, is my understanding.
and our only concern in this whole thing
Yeah, it's like
is
he's
the,
fine.
is the child.
I got it.
And so that's where we're at on the, and then
So
we
I
were just a
called
little
her.
weirded out when, you know, and I understand now that we've heard your side of the story.
It's awful. They just, I feel like I'm being tracked all the time. I'm like, why are police coming to my
Well,
car? What
They
did
were
I
out-
do?
They said they were out visiting two guys, and I'm assuming one's your brother.
Yeah.
Who was the other one? The other guy they were visiting with. There were two.
Missed it.
Well, we had two detectives over here trying to,
Looking for you a
Oh,
little while ago.
oh, because I was at the store.
and they ran into well, probably one of your brothers. in
My
the back
brother
here.
and his friend, probably.
Oh,
They've
who's
been
that?
moving. Chad?
Chad from Rapid? What's his last name? Yeah, okay. All
So
right.
it's just a mess. Like, just constantly causing me trouble.
Chad the Daybell?
He's an author.
Doesn't he live like out in the, he's not the Chad Daybell that, didn't his wife pass away recently? Is that him?
I don't know,
But it is, Chad Daybell. Yeah.
but it sounds familiar as an
I
author.
think I know one of his. He's got a couple of daughters. Is that what it is?
He has lots of kids.
Okay. Hope it's safe. All right. Well, you need anything else? Sorry to bother you.
Thank you.
We're
We don't mean to be a
I'm
problem.
sorry
We
that
just-
people are constantly knocking on my door. What are you doing? Looking for me, and I just don't want to be found, so.
Have you had problems? Because I think we only had.
Well, the reason I'm moving is because the brother that was going to kill me, that we found emails and texts with my husband at the time, came showing up here, so he found out where I was, and he was knocking on my door.
No, this was your brother
One of my brothers.
showed up here and was knocking on your door.
He lives in Kansas.
And you said something about you were getting threatening emails?
Well, no, just after my husband passed, I found emails and texts between them that they were planning all this stuff to get rid of me.
Do we need to worry about him coming over?
Well, that's when I'm moving back. I'm moving, and I'm not gonna be in a place, I'm gonna live with my friend, Melanie, don't tell anybody her name, Dib, because I don't want anything in my name. I put the apartment in my name, but I've been staying over here with my brother because he protects me.
Okay.
He's very
I just
protective
wanna
of
know
me,
if
so.
he shows back up, you know, you can call, take care of
Well,
it.
that's what I'm saying, like, I just like, it's just a nightmare. I mean, I canceled the insurance policy since my husband passed, so there's no money if they kill. And what are they gonna do with JJ and Kylie? Like, what do people think?
Yeah.
So.
Well, if you have a problem, shows back up, feel free to call us. We'll come and run them off or something. Okay? All right. Okay, get out of here. Say goodbye.
Thank you.
See ya.
Not.
Detective, upon having that conversation with Lori Vallow, did you have any concerns?
Several concerns, yes.
I want to talk to you about a couple of the statements she made to you there. She did talk about her brother trying to kill her.
Yes.
Did you ever find, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, she stated her brother had come and knocked on her door.
She did.
Did you ever find evidence to substantiate that?
No, we found no evidence that he had been to her apartment nor been even in the area outside of Kansas.
She talked about, I don't believe she said the name, but Kay Woodcock trying to take custody of JJ.
Yes.
Did you, in your investigation, ever find any evidence that that was a true statement?
No.
She talked about Tylee being at BYU Idaho. Tylee being at BYU Idaho. Did you ever look into that?
Yes.
How did you look into that?
Went to officials at the university to see if she was enrolled. Could find no evidence of her ever being applied or enrolled at BYU Idaho.
So you found no evidence that it was true that Tylee was at BYU Idaho.
That is correct.
She mentioned JJ, that she was trying to enroll him in a special needs school in Arizona. Is that accurate?
Through our investigation, we found no evidence of him being enrolled in a special needs school there.
She mentioned her friend Melanie Gibb in Arizona. Did you investigate Melanie Gibb's location that day?
We did. She was not in Arizona. She was currently at that time in Utah.
We spoke earlier about her characterization of Chad Daybell. How did she characterize Chad Daybell?
In our chat there, she said that Chad was her brother's friend. I found this to be odd, whereas not even a month earlier, I'd seen them holding hands, walking into the store. Plus, by this time, we had discovered that they had been married, would have been November 5th in Hawaii.
Did you have any other concerns while you were there in the apartment that day?
I did. Due to our original contact with them, knowing that an occupant of the Jeep earlier that month had possibly been involved in a shooting in Arizona, we were concerned as to these people's state of mind, what they would be willing to do, or there had been someone's life tried to be taken. And then she indicated that her brother was in the residence, but I never saw him physically. This made this officer safety concern. The other thing that I noticed while we were standing there speaking, if people can recall, there was a staircase to my right that went upstairs. It goes up basically a half a flight, takes a hard left and goes up the rest of the way. While we were standing there talking to Lori, a lot of my attention was drawn for officer safety on that stairway because we had not seen Alex. But on the wall at the top of the first flight of stairs, there was a shadow that was being reflected down onto that wall, and it kept moving back and forth, which made me nervous as to the intentions of, it appeared to be a person moving back and forth at the top of the stairs. Made me nervous as to what that person's intentions might be that we could not see.
Did you go back to that apartment that day?
Yes, we went back after we still couldn't get a hold of Melanie Gibb.
All right. And is that why you went back, because you were not able to get a hold of Melanie Gibb?
Yeah, we were trying to verify JJ's well-being and couldn't get an answer. So we went back.
And were you wearing a body cam when you went back?
I was.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be handed what's been marked as State's Exhibit 60. The court and counsel have been given a courtesy copy.
All right. And what's exhibit 60?
Pardon?
What is exhibit 60?
I was gonna have the officer look at it and,
Okay.
And
I
put
just
that
didn't
on the
have you
record.
identified on the record, so I knew what it was.
oh, that's a thumb drive.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Detective, do you recognize State's Exhibit 60?
I do.
What is it?
It is a copy on a flash drive of my second visit to Lori's apartment to inquire again about JJ.
And have you reviewed that thumb drive today?
I have.
Did you put your initials on it?
I did.
And is that a true and accurate copy of the body cam you recorded on your second visit to Lori Vallow?
It is.
Your Honor, I'd ask that State's Exhibit 60 be entered into the record.
Any objection?
Judge, no objection. I just need the time reference as to when he went back for the second visit, if I could.
All right, Mr. Woodbine, it's after admission, it is admitted, you can establish any additional foundation.
Approximately what time did you go back to Lori Vallow's residence?
This would have been probably 10 minutes after we had left the first time.
And may I publish?
You may.
So they want us to ask Lori if she would. Melanie is the friend.
Wasn't Melanie the one living up here, supposed to be her daughter, Lori's daughter?
No, this was the friend that she's going back down to live with, she said.
Right. She's got a daughter named Melanie.
Let's just see if she will call and have Melanie get a hold of Hope and just do a verification. Because apparently she's not answering the phone down there.
Lori? Hi, Lori, sorry to bother you again. Yeah, we're having
Melanie,
get hold of your friend down there,
No.
Melanie.
Well, they were going to Frozen 2 today, so they may be at the movies.
could you get a hold of her at some point and say, can you please call back the officer that's been trying to call you?
Okay, sure.
'Cause
Yeah, because I think they are at the movies right now.
okay,
I'll call her.
he's been trying to call her, our other officer. She's not answering.
Okay.
But if they're at the movie, that's,
Probably at Frozen 2 right now,
yeah.
because that's one thing he wanted to do.
I'm frozen too.
Yeah. So,
A whole winter here, that's probably why.
yeah, so if she'll just return his call, that'd be great. Okay, thanks. Yes, sir.
Detective, did you do anything further that day in relation to this investigation?
We tried to do verification with Melanie as to the welfare of JJ later that day.
And were you ever Were you able to verify JJ's location that day?
No, we were not able to
Uh,
establish where he was.
From your knowledge, did Melanie Gibb have JJ with her?
No, she did not have him.
After you weren't able to find JJ, what was the next step in your investigation?
After we were able to verify that the statements we were told were untrue, a warrant was established the following morning to go back to the residence and actually search 3 different residents in that apartment complex to look for the child.
Do you recall which apartments you searched?
There was 3, apartment 107, 174, which was the residence of Lori's niece, Melanie Boudreau at that time, and then where we had made contact with Lori, 175, which was right next door. 174 and 175 were right next door to each other. So we had warrants to go into all 3.
I'm gonna just briefly go back to, I believe you said November 1st when you did surveillance. Did you ever see Tylee Ryan or JJ Vallow that day?
No, in our entire stay that day, we never saw either child at that location.
And when you searched apartment 107, did you locate JJ or Tylee?
No.
And to be clear, were you looking for Tylee at that moment?
Not necessarily. We had inquired about Tylee, but she was going to BYU and maybe she would give us some answers as how JJ was, but not necessarily that she was missing. We were focused on JJ at this time.
Did you locate JJ in apartment 174?
No,
Did you locate him in apartment 175?
no,
And did you aid in the actual searches of those apartments that day?
I did.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I think this would, I realize we are 4 minutes before 3:30, but I think this would be a good stopping point.
No, I understand. I think this is fine with this witness on the stand at this point to go ahead and conclude for today with our trial testimony. So we will go ahead and conclude for the day, beginning again tomorrow. Thank you, everyone in the attendance today for complying with the court's conduct order. And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, before we break for the day, as I try to remind you each day, please don't discuss this case with anyone else. Don't discuss it amongst yourselves either. You can only do that during deliberations when the case is submitted for your review. All right, good morning, everyone. We're back on the record on case CR 22-21-1623, State of Idaho versus Chad Daybell. We're continuing with the state's case in chief. Officer Stubbs is on the stand and was previously sworn. I'll note that the jurors are all presently accounted for and properly seated. The court has received the juror affirmations from each of the jurors that are here present today, indicating they've continued to follow the court's admonition as it relates to not following or looking into or investigating the case. So thank you again for returning and for following the court's instruction. I'll also just briefly address the schedule for today. We are going to go past lunch, but not until we typically break in the afternoon, and we're intending to stop sometime around 2 or 2:30 perhaps, just for reasons the court stated to counsel in a sidebar before we started. So with that, I will inquire briefly of the witness because we had the break here from the exclusionary order. Officer Stubbs, did you review any case or testimony or anything about the case since you were on the stand?
I have
this
not.
afternoon?
I have not.
Okay, thanks for affirming that. I'll remind you, of course, you're still under oath for your testimony. And Mr. Wood, if you'd like to continue with direct, you may do so.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Just to recap, Detective, when we left yesterday for clarity of the record and for the jury, I believe we had spoken about your visit with Lori Vallow on November 26th.
Yes, we have.
that you were not able to locate JJ that day,
No, we were not able to.
and that you weren't able to verify his whereabouts later that day.
That is correct.
Did you in the next day help in searching Lori Vallow's apartment?
Yes, November 27th, 2019, with a search warrant, yes.
Okay, thank you, pursuant to a search warrant. And I believe you testified yesterday that you did not locate JJ in any 3 of those apartments.
We did not.
Detective, did you have body cam on? Did you do a body cam? Let me rephrase that. Did you do a body cam walkthrough of any of those apartments?
Yes, I did on both 174 and 175.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be handed State's Exhibit 144,
Very well.
and a courtesy copy has been provided to court and counsel.
And Judge, my numbering may be off because I had 144 as the first contact with Lori Vallow. Am I mistaken, counsel?
That was
59.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, 59. Detective, do you recognize State's Exhibit 144?
I do.
What is it?
This would have been a USB drive of my documentation of apartment 175.
And did you specifically review it on that drive?
Yes, I have.
And did you initial that drive?
I did.
Is it a true and accurate representation of the body cam you recorded that day?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd move for admission of State's Exhibit 144 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Judge.
All right, Exhibit 144 is entered into evidence.
Thank you.
Your Honor, may I publish?
You may publish.
This is the search warrant on apartment number 170.
I inquire, is the audio coming through the speakers?
It is.
Okay.
Well, I think it is. I'm not sure if it's through your mic on your computer or through the speakers.
Put the mic.
I think it was through the speakers, though.
Write it out.
175. Coming into the front door, this is the front room.
Detective, I'm going to pause it real quick. Is this the same apartment that you spoke to Lori Vallow in?
Yes, it is.
And this body cam was taken on what date
The following day, the 27th.
of November 2019?
Yes.
Entered. This is the damage to the door upon a no-knock entry warrant. Door, front door. Back of the door. Room. Here's the door jamb. Front room and kitchen area. There was, upon arrival, keys that had been left on the counter, a envelope from Amazon. This was on the front porch to Lori Vallow, 565 Pioneer Road, apartment 175, Rexburg, Idaho. Kitchen. Pantry. Half bath. Garage leading to, or door leading up to the garage. This area. Couches, tables, guns located in this area. Sorry, Sean. I'm going that way, Rob. Staircase going up to the second level of the whole 175. To the left at the top of the landing, it's like master bedroom, bed, a bath and closet area. Upon entering, no clothing left in this closet, shower.
Detective, we just heard you say there was no clothing left in that closet, correct?
Yes.
Was that of note to you?
It made me think that the occupants, because of our day visit before, left in haste.
Like there was some electronic devices on these at one time. I can see dust imprints of what appears to be computers. Here is a printer. On this printer is a lease agreement. Looks like executed on October 1st, 2019. And it says a Lori Ravan, RVAN, as the leaser. Coming out of the master bedroom, a hall adjoining a laundry room to the right. Continuing down the hall to the left, a furnace, water heater, closet. Opposite that is a bathroom. Continuing down the hall, two bedrooms. One to the south, one to the north of the hallway. This is the one to the south. A single bed, a double bed, a closet containing a couple coats, one empty box, a fan, some empty hangers, what appears to be a bedspread, and this box here that appears to have possibly winter clothes, female winter clothes inside. Continuing to the other bedroom, we have, this is the one to the north. We have a bed, appears to be some bedding on the floor. We have three cases here, all containing guitars. It looks like a duffel bag full of toiletry items that would appear to be belong to a male subject due to the cologne and so forth inside. This closet is also fairly barren. Looks like there are 2 samurai swords inside the closet, empty laundry basket, another basket containing some odds and ends of some sort. Nothing else in this room. That is the entire aspect of the home upon entry.
And Detective, did you search it, or did you do a walkthrough of any other apartments that day with your body cam?
I did a walkthrough of the apartment 174, which is right next to 175, would have been Melanie Boudreau's apartment.
And can you remind the jury who Melanie Boudreau is and her relationship to Lori Vallow?
It would have been Lori's niece.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be handed State's Exhibit 144A. Yeah, a copy has been provided to the court and counsel.
All right, thank you.
Detective, do you recognize State's Exhibit 144A?
Yes,
What is it?
this would have been my documentation of the apartment 174 when I did a walkthrough after entry had been made into it as well.
When you went into 174, was there anything that stood out to you?
Well, this particular apartment appeared to still be someone was residing there. The clothes were in the closet. There was a car in the garage. So it appeared to me that someone was still residing there. Something that struck me as odd is as we were searching. So this was Melanie Boudreau's apartment. At one time, she was married to Brandon Boudreau. I noticed that on the counter, she had a, if you will, a 3-ring binder with those clear plastic organizers in there. And I thought it was odd because I knew they were divorced, that she had numerous of his credit cards and driver's license in there.
And is that all captured on the body cam that you took as you did a walkthrough?
Yes.
And State's Exhibit 144A, is that a true and accurate representation of the body cam you took on that walkthrough?
Yes.
Did you initial that drive and have you reviewed it?
I have reviewed and I initialed it after viewing.
Your Honor, I'd ask that State's Exhibit 144A be entered into evidence.
No objection.
All right, Exhibit 144A is admitted.
And may I publish?
You may.
Should be. I hope it's still empty. Okay. I don't think so. Okay, this is apartment number 174, which is just south of 175. This is the initial walkthrough of the apartment. This door was hit on a no-knock warrant. This is the door, and the door jamb was destroyed upon the entry. No one came to the door. The front room. kitchen area. Looks like there is a couple of electronics, possible some kind of purse here. Here is, looks like several credit cards, with name of Brandon Prodexio. Pronouncing that wrong. Also a driver's license out of Arizona for Brandon. Coming around more.
Detective, you recently testified about finding a large amount of credit cards for Brandon Boudreaux.
Yes.
I believe there you may have mispronounced his name. Is that?
I surely did.
But it was Brandon.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that to make fun of you.
It is the same.
For purposes of identity, it was Brandon Boudreaux. Okay. And Your Honor, I'm done with this exhibit.
Okay.
And Detective, just for clarity from yesterday, you've testified that JJ Vallow was not located that day, was he?
He was not.
To your knowledge, did the search for JJ Vallow ever extend into a search to include Tylee Ryan as well?
Yes.
And Detective, you testified before that you have some experience in cellular devices.
That is correct.
Did you participate or write warrants for any cellular or digital evidence in this case?
I did.
Did you prepare a list of the different warrants you prepared in anticipation of testifying at trial?
Yes.
Did you do that to aid the jury in understanding the different warrants you wrote and to be able to explain why you wrote them and what you obtained from them?
Yes, I did.
And do you believe it would aid the jury in understanding your testimony about the nature of the evidence you collected?
I believe it would help them understand what we did and why.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be handed State's Exhibit 296. And I don't know if the court or counsel has a copy of this yet.
I have a courtesy copy.
Okay, and I believe he does.
Thank you.
I do have a copy. Thank you.
Detective, is this the list I was just speaking to you about?
It is.
Is it a true and accurate representation of the list you created?
Yes, I prepared this list.
Your Honor, for demonstrative purposes only, I'd ask that State's Exhibit 296 be entered into evidence.
No objection, Judge.
Okay, Exhibit 296 is admitted as a demonstrative exhibit.
And before I go there, Your Honor, I just, or Detective, I want to clarify with you really quick. Did you ever find evidence that Brandon Boudreaux lived in apartment 174 in Rexburg, Idaho?
No.
May I publish Exhibit 296?
Yes.
Detective, approximately how many search warrants did you obtain for electronic or digital evidence in this case?
20.
Are they listed on this list?
Yes, they are.
Can you tell us about the first item on that list?
Yes. So 2019-77 was the first warrant that I had wrote. This was for the known phone number that we had originally had contact with Lori Vallow. after our original contact. However, wouldn't take any calls after that. But so I wrote this warrant to Verizon Wireless to get information on her and anything that Verizon might have that would aid us in trying to locate her and her children.
All right. And did you obtain any useful information from that warrant?
Yes.
What was that?
So just if I may, just kind of give an overview of, if I may, from 77, can you lower it down past 53 just a little bit? So 77 through 61, just so if I may, this was all pre-finding the children. So these were all done in attempt to locate where the kids were or Lori was. And so I just wanted to clarify that these are going to be all grouped, if you will, in that aspect.
Thank you. And since you brought that up, the numbers on the left, is there a method to the numbering of those warrants?
So at least where I'm from, Madison County,
Sure.
the way warrants are issued, the first number has to do with the year, then the dash, and then the second number is what warrant was in accession, whether it me, someone else that got a warrant. So it'd be at the first year, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on throughout the year.
All right. Okay. Thank you. And so going back to the top of the list, what useful information did you obtain from that warrant?
So as a result of that warrant, it led to the next warrant because we were able to get a return from Verizon saying, these are some of the names and email addresses that would have been associated with that first number. So then, as it shows here, we wrote 86 in 2019 because we were able to obtain these email addresses. As you can see, 3 of them were Gmail accounts, which in some ways is very useful to us in trying to identify and find somebody.
Okay. How does that help you find someone?
So, kind of in a nutshell, anytime someone uses social media or a Gmail account or has any kind of account that would associate them with the internet, and Google is very good at keeping track of people. And so when you use a Gmail account or you're logged on to your Google account, they are very good at keeping record of what you do and when you do it and where you are. So Gmail's, and that goes for other mail accounts as well.
In regard to Google accounts, and is it true that Google runs several different apps that can be on a phone?
Yes.
And you testified Google keeps track of people, or I shouldn't say of people, but of the devices that their apps are loaded on.
Yeah, they keep track of the accounts that people set up, who they are, or who set them up. Vital information that might help us especially in this case, if there were other phone numbers associated with that Google account. Google will package those under, if you will, that Gmail account, addresses, credit cards, things like that. Google will, if you log in from a device to your account, whether it's a computer, cell phone, whatever, they'll make note of that and link that to your account.
And in terms of the Google location services, that they keep track of. Are you aware if an individual can opt out of the geolocation tracking?
So there is an option through Google. If you so desire, you can turn off your location services, which would keep Google from keeping that information.
So under search warrant 2019-86, you have, can you read the names of the 4 accounts you searched?
Yeah, so in blue here, the result was Homer J. Maximus at gmail.com, associated with Alex Cox. Lowly Time Forever at gmail.com, Lori Vallow. Lori for Style at iCloud.com, also Lori Vallow. And Chad.Daybell at gmail.com, associated with Chad Daybell.
To your knowledge, were you able to obtain Google geolocation data from any of those accounts?
Yes.
Which ones?
Homer J. Maximus would be the one that, if you will, gave us the most information.
Okay. Let's go to the next warrant. What was that written for?
So again, we're still in the process of trying to locate children, JJ and Tylee. Sorry. So search warrant was done for a PO box we had located for Lori in Sugar City, which is an adjoining town to Rexburg. In that mail, we found a Verizon bill. Upon opening this Verizon bill, we found several phone numbers listed under the name of Lori, Alex, Charles Vallow, Tylee, that we didn't have before. So our thinking in this was to, again, write another warrant to Verizon for these numbers to try and get additional information so we could find these children.
Right. Was anything useful obtained from that?
Yeah, it just solidified a lot of what we had already done, numbers that were associated, and we're able to eliminate quite a few of those phones as that they had been surrendered, if you will, or turned to somebody else and no longer had anything to do with them. This count had kind of gone into default because of lack of payment.
Okay. Let's go down to 2020-09.
Okay.
You can describe for the jury what that warrant was for.
Okay, so again, you're going to see the Homer J. Maximus, but so when these apartments were abandoned, 175 particularly, no one ever returned to them after the 27th. So the landlords, if you will, or owners, went in to clean out all the stuff that was in there. And when they were in there, they had located in some of the stuff to abandon devices that they thought best to turn over to us. So this is a result of looking at those devices. The new one that you would see with Alex Cox is the raylamar@gmail.com.
And then again, Homer J. Maximus is that Homer
Right.
J. Maximus again?
Yes.
Tell us about warrant 2020-15.
Okay, so this was originally written. If you notice the second number over in this warrant, a typo, I put it in parentheses here, was put 47 when it said it should have been 74. So those two numbers were just crossed. Anyway, what this means with a tap and trace warrant, we still could not get answers on where the kids were, and couldn't get information from Lori.
And let me interrupt you really quick. I apologize. Do you recall approximately when you submitted this warrant, 2015?
Would have been fairly early in January, I believe.
Of 2020?
2020, yes.
All right, thank you. Yeah, and if you can explain what a pen register tap and trace
Sure.
is.
So what this does is we request this on these numbers because we believe we could associate these with the parties. The company, which would have been Verizon here, would send us live data, not necessarily conversations, but where the phones would be, if you will, hitting off of cell phone towers to give us a general location of where they might be at this time, live, if you will.
Okay. So it's is it fair to say it's used to try and track a person's current location? Or let me rephrase that, a device's current location.
Yes.
And you did that trying to find those phone numbers that are listed there. Do you know who those phone numbers belonged to?
So yeah, this is going to be a long and short of this, but because it's going to come into connection with 2020-20 as well, because if I may kind of explain that.
Sure, please do.
So the 15 was wrote to Verizon Wireless. Well, ultimately, two of those numbers, Verizon said they're not our numbers. You're going to have to also get a hold of T-Mobile. So two of those numbers in 2020, as you see, T-Mobile Wireless were in the above warrant. However, we had to write a new warrant for T-Mobile. So they're both in conjunction, if you will. Okay, now that I've explained that, ask that question again.
So the numbers that are on, and I'm actually going to
Okay.
say between 2015 and 2021, who do those numbers belong to?
So we believe those numbers to be associated with Lori Vallow, Alex Cox, Tylee Ryan, Chad Daybell.
If you were looking for Tylee and JJ, why were you looking at Chad Daybell's location?
Well, I mean, Lori and Chad were married. We couldn't get a hold of either one of them. We couldn't get any straight answers as to where they were. We couldn't get any answers as to where the children were. So they were associated.
And I'm going to just kind of back up just really briefly. When you obtain a warrant, how do you obtain a warrant?
So we have to enter what is called a probable cause affidavit to the court on why we want it and what we believe we will find once that warrant is signed by a judge. So with that probable cause affidavit, a warrant for what we are looking for is presented to the court. The court reviews that. If they feel like our probable cause is just, a judge will sign the warrant, allowing us to move forward with serving the warrant on whoever it is we're serving it on.
So the warrants are signed by the judge.
That's correct.
On these pen register / tap and trace warrants, were you able to locate Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow through those warrants?
Yes, we were able to locate the devices which we believe to be with them in Hawaii.
Warrant number 2020-25, can you tell us what you found or what was searched and found on that?
Okay, so upon finding where they were, we had investigators, FBI, go to Hawaii, Kauai, if you will, and they were able to locate Chad and Lori. A warrant was obtained to gather evidence from their residence where they were staying there and their vehicle. This is the result of 10 electronic devices that were taken from their rental car that they were both in. And so that is what the 10 electronic devices is for, why we obtain warrants.
And did you search all these devices yourself, or did other agencies and other personnel help in searching some of these devices?
So yes, I'm glad you brought that up, because all these warrants, when you get back a return from Google, Verizon, you have to understand these are thousands of pages long, thousands of records, thousands of pages. And for just one person to go through all that, and especially in the short time frame we were trying to do this to find kids, is simply impossible. And so a lot of the returns that I got from this, I would give out to FBI, other investigators for review, so we could try and go through a large record in a short amount of time.
And we'll return back to some of the things that were found on that in just a bit in 2020-25. Can you tell us about 2020-30?
Yeah, would you mind just moving that down just a
Oh,
little bit? Thank you. So this again was another tap and trace warrant on a phone that we found. You have to understand, by this time, like I stated at the beginning, we still had no answers even after contacting Chad and Lori as to where the children were. We weren't getting any answers. No one was talking to us. So again, with this tap and trace warrant, we were still looking for children. And we were trying to establish if this device was anywhere around the children. So that's the reason for this one.
And the next warrant, 2020-31.
So this again came from, this would be Melanie Boudreau's apartment. Devices found there, and this would have been apartment 174. So this was a warrant for us to go ahead and search the actual devices that we had taken from that residence. I should note here that at this time, our current software that we use for forensics, I should say not me, but the FBI was taking care of these. The phones were not able to be broke into at this time, only the tablet. So that's still looking for children.
And you mentioned that, so if we can just talk about it really quick. Just because you have a device, does that mean you can automatically hook it up to your Cellbrite or another forensic software and read it?
Well,
Does that happen
that's
automatically?
kind of a two-part thing. Yeah, we got to have a warrant.
Right.
And so forensic software is always slightly behind a phone, if you will. So whenever a phone comes out with new technology, forensic people who develop software are always taking the new device and trying to figure out, if you will, how it ticks, but it's not till it comes out. So as far as these phones, software hadn't been updated that we could break into the passcodes on these. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes. So, and just, I guess to clarify, just because you physically have the phone and you can hook it up to your software, that doesn't mean you can always get into the device.
That's right.
Can you tell us about 2020-46?
So we were able to establish that these were two different numbers belonging to Melanie Boudreau. And, you know, as far as at this time, we didn't feel like she was being cooperative either. We knew that.
Judge, I'm going to object at this time. I've been somewhat relaxed, but I need some foundation for him to be able to make these kinds of statements.
Mr. Wood, do you want to respond to that?
Approximately when did you obtain this warrant for the two numbers for Melanie Boudreau?
It would have been probably later spring. I can't give you an exact date without seeing the warrant itself.
And that's okay, but it was later spring of 2020.
Yes.
And at this time, had you found, or not you, but had law enforcement found Tylee and JJ?
No.
And were you trying to obtain information from Melanie Boudreau about the whereabouts of Tylee and JJ?
Yes.
Why would she have that type of information? Or let me rephrase that. Why would you think that she might have that type of information?
Well, in interviews, we felt like she was
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. There still hasn't been sufficient foundation. He's referring to other interviews. He's not identifying them, and I'm not even sure he participated in those interviews.
I'll sustain that, Mr. Wood.
Did you ever participate in an interview with Melanie Boudreau?
I only had interaction with her when she was being interviewed in obtaining her phone to do a forensic on it. I had to make contact with her during that interview for that purpose.
And Judge, could I have some date, time, place, foundation, please?
I'm waiting for an objection.
Objection.
It's true. Yeah, it's not an objection, Mr. Pryor. So now there's an objection based on foundation. Mr. Wood, if you'd like to respond.
Approximately when did you meet with Melanie Boudreau?
This would have been early on. I don't recall exactly the date. I remember it being in the interview room at the Rexburg Police Department.
Would it have been early 2020
Yes.
and before Tylee and JJ had been found?
Yes.
Right. And was that when you obtained these the phones that were subject to 2020-46?
No. Well, so these phones were obtained when we did the search on the 27th.
And I'm actually going to use this opportunity right now. There's multiple ways to obtain digital evidence, correct?
Correct.
Is one of those ways to collect the evidence off of the device itself?
Yes.
Right. Can you also obtain evidence from the phone carrier?
Yes.
And when I say that, I mean like Verizon, T-Mobile.
Yes.
And then can you obtain evidence from app companies of apps that are on a phone?
And Judge, at this point, the objection is going to be leading.
Overruled.
So as I earlier stated, with the Gmail accounts and so forth, yes, they keep a lot of information that would have been shared with a phone, a computer. They also keep records that wouldn't be on the device. It would be in their database with Google or whoever.
Thank you. So on warrant 2020-46, it appears, who is that warrant written to?
Can you clarify who?
Who was that warrant served on?
Melanie Boudreau.
And did it go to Verizon Wireless as well?
Yes.
And were you asking Verizon Wireless for information associated with those two phone numbers?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Did you find anything on those that aided you in finding JJ and Tylee?
Other than associations with the other email accounts and phone numbers that we've already gone through.
Okay. Tell me about the next warrant, 2020-53. Approximately when did you write that?
So this would have been after Lori and Chad were served in Hawaii. In searching the vehicle, there was a notebook found. This notebook had pages of, if you will, user accounts and email accounts and so forth. There was a page in there from the car that all these email addresses were listed, and therefore we again obtained additional warrants for some of these in hopes to locate the children.
At the bottom of 2020-53, what do you have written there?
So a lot of this was still during, not making excuses, but pandemic time. So we never got a response from Google on this warrant after months. And so yeah, they never responded.
(2020-61), the word Shmuel is written. What is that?
So that was, we found that a lot of these devices had this app in common. It's a music sharing app. However, in the music sharing app, there was the ability to communicate through, if you will, text type messages. So again, we were just looking for any clues that would help lead us. And so this was a warrant written to Shmuel to see if they had any information that would help us.
And I believe you testified earlier that the warrants written up through 2020-61 were looking for the children.
That is correct.
What changed after 2020-61?
Because after this time, we would have been past the time where June 9th, where we located the children on Chad Daybell's property.
What was the purpose of 2020-74?
So this is in conjunction with the FBI, with their CAST team.
And do you know approximately when it was that warrant was obtained?
This would have been, I believe, within a couple weeks after the 9th.
When you say the 9th, can you?
Sorry, June 9th, 2020.
And just for purposes of clarity, what event happened on June 9th, 2020?
That is the day that we located the children's bodies on the Daybell property.
Okay. So going back to that warrant, what was the purpose of that warrant with the FBI?
So again, we were, we hadn't, I mean, yes, we found the children. However, we didn't have other answers of why and whatnot. And we were still looking at trying to determine devices that would have been located on that property that could have been involved in the children being there. So the purpose in this was to take specialized equipment onto the property close to the locations where the children were found and get signal strengths from cellular towers and be able to precisely say what tower, what the signal strength was and so forth. The FBI did that part. I was with them. However, I was just really the one that obtained the warrant and served it at the property.
And then they did the work on that.
That is correct.
The next warrant, 2020, it looks like -76 and 77.
Yeah, so that's two different warrants, but
When approximately were those obtained?
I'm sorry.
When approximately were those obtained?
That would have been also shortly within a few weeks after the children were found on that June 9th date.
Okay. And it looks like that's a warrant for a geofence.
That is correct.
Can you
A couple
explain?
different ones.
Okay. Can you explain for the jury what a geofence is?
So again, the theory here is as I explained in the previous one, we're trying to find out, if you will, devices that would have been in the vicinity on certain dates and times where we believe the children had been buried on the property. So when I say a 250-meter range of the center of the properties in this, so if you were to take and put a dot and then draw a circle 250 meters out, which is approximately like 2.5 football fields in circumference. And so our thinking was we had dates we believed, we had times we believed. We wanted to try and find anyone who had any significant time in those areas during those dates and those times. And that's both for 202 North, 1900 East, which was Chad's property, and 565 Pioneer Road, number 175, which is where Lori was. So we're just looking for commonality. We were looking, are we missing anything? Is there anybody else involved here that we need to be looking at? And that's why we wrote this, is to see if there's other people we need to be looking at besides who we already were looking at.
And so that warrant was written to Google, correct?
That is correct.
So just to help the jury understand, is when you say a geofence, are you looking for Google location data within that area?
Yes, that would just be what Google records have, not Verizon, not anybody else, just Google, because that's a very common thread that everybody uses. So yeah, it was just to Google.
And again, we had talked earlier about opting out of Google location services. If someone, to your knowledge and experience, if someone had their Google location data turned off, would they show up in that geofence?
Not by Google records, no.
Okay. So tell us the process of obtaining that warrant and how you obtained that information.
On the return, when
Yes.
okay, so you have to understand, especially, well, like Chad's property is more rural. But where Lori's property was is it's high density. And so when you ask for this, Google sends you thousands of pages of people that have passed through your fence, your 250-meter fence, whether they are on the road, whatever. So it's massive amounts. But Google doesn't tell you who they are in these warrants. Google assigns everybody a number. It's a Google association number is what it's called. And so everybody who has an account or whatever has a number associated with them. So when we get this return, the return shows, if you will, this device passed through there, was in that area for, this is just an example.
Okay.
5 seconds, and you can see as it maybe passes on the road in that fenced area. But it doesn't say that was John Doe. It says this was Google account number, user number, this with a large digit number. So this warrant didn't establish who these people were, is I guess what I'm getting at, just a number associated with them.
And then did you do a follow-up warrant based on that initial return from Google?
So the theory was to take that warrant and all that information, plug it into a system, and then try and narrow it down to people who would have been in that area or both areas in common during those timeframes. So, so after plugging all that information in, we came down to possibly 12 devices that we felt could be, if you will, devices of interest. And so am I explaining that okay? That, and then we wrote, that would have led to 2021-10 here.
All right. And explain what you asked for in 2021-10.
Okay, so 2021-10 would have been us saying, okay, these are some Google numbers that are of interest to us from our fence account. And because they were either in the area for a significant amount of time, and maybe these people were involved or could have seen something or whatever during these critical times. And so us writing this warrant was to say, can you please tell us from these Google account numbers, can you please tell us who they are so we can, if you will, get in touch with them or look at them as people of interest.
All right. And so, and what were you provided? What did you learn from that?
Well, so after writing this warrant, we didn't receive a response from Google. And after much time had passed, I was finally able to get a hold of someone with Google, which is almost impossible to talk to a live person, but I finally get a hold of them, and their advice to us was to shrink our search a little bit more, that they felt looking for 12 was too broad. And so that's why they hadn't responded to our warrant. So, which at that time, then
Follow
we,
up on that?
yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to speak
No.
over. Did you follow up on that?
Yes, so at that time, we lessened it by 2 when we wrote 2021-20 for 10 devices that we felt were of interest. And we did receive from Google at that time the account holders' information on those 10 devices or 10 accounts.
Okay. And did you, what did you learn from that?
Well, so out of the 10 account holders, background checks were done, checks for associations with Lori, Chad, Alex. We could never find, other than Alex himself, any of the other people that would have had association with these 2 other parties.
So just to clarify, you wrote these warrants for these geofence areas around Chad Daybell's property and where Lori Vallow lived, correct?
Yes, on particular, those particular dates, yes.
And you were looking for numbers that had some commonality between the two locations.
Right.
And at the end of the day, the only number you found was Alex Cox's.
That's right.
Just briefly, can you tell us about the last warrant you have on that list?
Yeah, so this was a warrant that, so the children had been found. We were just trying to make sense of everything we had. And we thought it would be a good idea because we had been in the moment, if you will, of this whole investigation to have an independent person, an expert, go through the electronic devices that we had already been through to see if, number one, we had missed anything, and number two, get a fresh set of eyes that hadn't been so involved in the case to get an outside perspective into the case. And so this warrant was wrote for several of the devices that we had already searched to take them out to Pennsylvania and have an independent expert go through what we had been through.
Did you learn any new information from that process?
So the answer to that question would be no, nothing new was obtained that we hadn't already discovered.
Okay. Detective, I want to just talk to you briefly a little bit about some of the things you found when you did your searches. I listed on Exhibit 296, and you've spoken about Lolly Time Forever.
One of Lori's Gmail accounts, yes.
And did you ever look, did you specifically look at that account yourself?
Lolly Time?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Did you ever have occasion to look at the search history on it?
Yes.
Were there any searches that stood out to you through your investigation?
Yes, there were a few that brought me concern.
Right. Was there a search on August 25th that interested or that was of note to you?
Yes.
What was that for?
So on August 25th, the user of this account, which the name on the account was Lori Vallow, the user of this account on the 25th looked up wedding rings made of malachite, visited some sites with that. At one point, the user attempted to make a purchase of 2 of those rings, and they were basically silver with the green malachite through the middle of them. Each one was an 11.5 size ring, and the other one was a 4.25. And a purchase was attempted for a total of $808 on that date.
Are you aware if that purchase was successful?
No, I was later able to find out that the credit card used had failed, and so the purchase was never completed.
And on this same account, Lolly Time Forever, was there anything that you noticed in the search history on September 20th?
September 20th, which was 3 days before we believe JJ.
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. It's non-responsive
I think he's just providing information for the answer, Your Honor.
and it's non-responsive information.
It's overruled. You can answer.
So on the 23rd, when we believe JJ was deceased, on the 20th, knowing, well, the user of the account looked up the definition and meaning of possessed.
And to clarify, I don't know if I did this before, Lolly Time Forever, who was that account associated with?
Lori Vallow.
And then was there anything that stuck out to you in the search history on that account, Lolly Time Forever, on September 30th of 2019?
Yes, so on September 30th, which would have been 2 days before Brandy Boudreaux's attempted shooting, the user of this account looked up how to remove the back seat from a Jeep Wrangler. The user of that account then accessed a video, a YouTube video on how to do it, and that video was accessed.
And why was that of note to you?
Because 2 days later, gray Jeep Wrangler with Texas license plates was noted as being the vehicle that a gun was shot at Brandy Boudreaux from the rear of that vehicle in Arizona.
Is that in fact the same Jeep that you found, that law enforcement found in Rexburg,
Yes, on the 4th.
4th of November,
Yes,
2019?
that's correct.
Did you do any searches on the account of chad.daybell@gmail.com?
Yes,
Did you look at that search history?
I did.
Why did you do that?
Again, at this time, we were still looking for children.
And was there anything in the search history of chad.daybell@gmail.com that caught your attention?
Yes,
What was that?
it would have been September 8th, 2019. The day before we believe Tylee was
Judge, I'm not sure I heard the year. I may have heard that wrong.
2019.
2019. Thank you.
And what did you find?
The user of Chad.Daybell looked up what the wind direction was going to be for the following day, which would have been the 9th.
And in the course of your investigation, why was that of note to you?
Judge calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Because we believe on the 9th was the day that Tylee was, her body was burned and buried in the fire pit behind Chad's house.
Detective, we had talked about when we were going over your list of warrants under 2020-25, about 10 electronic devices seized from Chad and Lori in Hawaii.
Yes,
Did you search any of those devices yourself?
I did.
Did you have occasion to search a PNY USB flash drive?
I did.
What did you find on that flash drive?
Upon initial looking at the flash drive, found several wedding photographs from December 5th of Chad and Lori's wedding in Kauai, Hawaii.
I'm sorry, what date did you say?
Would have been December 5th. Or sorry, November 5th.
Okay, thank you. Tell us how you searched that device. Did you just plug it into a computer or did you do something else?
I used forensic software to search the device. One of the reasons we use forensic software is because it is set up in such a way that anything we do looking at the device won't, if you will, disturb its original form. So we use forensic software to search this device.
Okay. And was there anything else of note to you on that device?
Yes.
What was that?
So if I may, just a little bit here, at first glance, if you were to plug this flash drive into, say, a regular computer, the only thing that you would have been able to see on this flash drive would have been the wedding photographs. However, when you plug this type of device in and use forensic software, you were able to obtain and see anything that may have been, might still be there, deleted, so forth and so on, that you wouldn't be able to see with a regular computer.
Okay, and did you find anything that had been deleted?
Yes.
What was that?
I don't know the precise number, but it appeared to be photos of Chad, Tammy, their kids, if you will, a history. It appeared to me that possibly Chad and Tammy's courtship to their marriage to their kids being born to their kids growing up, just basically a family album, I guess would be the best way to say it, that had all been deleted.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask that the witness be handed State's Exhibit 61A through 61S, and I believe a courtesy copy has been given to the court and counsel.
All right, A through S. Mr. Wood?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Detective, can you briefly review 61A through S and then let me know when you've had a chance to do so?
Okay.
Do you recognize that exhibit?
Yeah, these are all, if you will, hard copies of the photographs that were located on that flash drive.
And are those true and accurate representations of the photos you viewed on that flash drive?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask that State's Exhibits 61A through S be entered into evidence.
And there won't be an objection, Judge.
Okay, exhibits 61A through S are individual photographs each. They're all admitted into evidence. Mr. Wood, we've got a request to take our morning recess this time. Let's go ahead and do that with the admission of those exhibits, and then we can move on after that. So we'll be in recess for about 20 minutes, intending to come back on the record here at about quarter after.
All right, please. Curious Officer Counter for Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bailiff. Please be seated. We just concluded the mid-morning recess. We're back on the record on case CR 22-21-16-23, State of Idaho versus Chad Daybell. Detective Stubbs still on the stand on direct. We just admitted State's Exhibits 61A through S. And if you'd like to continue on direct, Mr. Wood, you may do so.
Thank you, Your Honor. And if I may publish.
You may. And as you publish, please reference each individual photo by its exhibit number.
Detective, was this one of the photos that you recovered from the flash drive we've been talking about?
Yes,
What does it appear to be?
appears to be Chad and Lori on the beach in Hawaii with the pastor, uh, possibly doing a wedding ceremony.
In this photo?
Again, Chad and Lori, their wedding on the beach in Hawaii.
And what was that, Mr. Wood?
I apologize, Your Honor. That was 61A. And for clarity of the record, the first one I showed was 61I. If you can say what you observe in 61B.
Again, appears that they're on the beach again. Chad has a ukulele, and Lori appears that she's dancing.
This is 61E. E is an echo. And what do you observe?
Again, another photo. This is one that I do get a glimpse of a ring on Chad's left hand. This isn't the best of them all, though, but
Okay. $61K.
picture of the wedding rings, which appear to be silver with possible malachite in the middle of them that both parties were eventually wearing on their fingers.
61H.
Appears to be Lori and Chad holding hands, revealing Lori's ring on her left hand.
$61M.
Similar to the first, other than you see rings on both parties' hands.
And 61R.
This would appear to be Chad and Lori at some point. Appears to be in Kauai, Hawaii, in front of what appears to be the LDS temple.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I have no further questions for this witness.
All right. I'll have the bailiff retrieve those photos. Mr. Pryor, cross-examination.
Judge, before I start, my understanding is it's by
Turn
way
on the
of,
microphone, please, Mr. Pryor.
we're going to learn, am I? Before I start, Judge, I understand this is by stipulation of the parties. I have Exhibit 50 and it's Defense Exhibit 50. And I still, again, it's Glenn Glenn Bard's report that was referenced by Officer Stubbs on the last line of his exhibit. I have the actual report of Glenn Bard, so I'm moving for admission of Glenn Bard's report.
All right.
No
any-
objection.
No objection. Very well. Defense Exhibit 50 is admitted.
And Judge, let me know when I can proceed.
You may inquire.
Officer Stubbs, there's a term about universal time as it relates to adjusting cellular data. And could you explain that a little bit to me?
So UTC, where, if you will, where time is zero, and then as you move around the earth, you gain or lose an hour from that standard time.
Okay.
So depending on where you're at, it's UTC plus or minus.
Okay, and then when we're dealing with Rexburg, Idaho, St. Anthony area, do you have a recollection of what the UTC adjustment is?
It depends on the time of year, but it's usually UTC minus 6 or 7
Okay, so six depending on
daylight savings.
daylight savings time, but for generally it's a six hour adjustment. Would that be fair?
6 or 7, depending. Yeah.
Okay. Now you made a habit of going over the body cam of the apartments, 175, which would be assigned to who? Apartment number 175 Pioneer.
Well, Lori Vallow was living there.
Okay, and then on 174, who was living there?
Melanie Boudreau.
And then 107, who was living there?
Well, 107 was originally assigned to Lori. However, we know Alex was living there at one time, but when we went there on the search warrants on the 27th, it was totally vacant.
Okay. And as part of your search warrant, did you also have a habit of going through the garages of those particular units as well?
Are you referring to my body cam or?
No, I'm talking in
Just-
general. Did you also go through and look through the garages as part of your search?
That would be practice, yes.
Okay, and you did that on this particular occasion?
The garages were going through, yes.
Okay, that wasn't necessarily part of your body cam, was it?
Well, from the body cams, I did reference the garage.
Okay. You didn't take particular notations during this presentation, anything substantial about what was found in the garage. Is that fair?
Other than the guns, no.
Okay. And if you were to see pictures of items that have been previously provided to the defense, would you be able to ascertain whether you believe those were items that were in the garage of the respective parties?
I'm not sure. I would
Okay.
have to see.
And if I provided you with those pictures and an opportunity to look at those pictures, would that be something that could refresh your recollection?
Possibly.
And Judge, if I could have the bailiff hand to Officer Stubbs. I have a thumb drive with a number of pictures. I'd ask Officer Stubbs, if you have some difficulty, please advise, and I can help you scroll through these respective pictures.
Okay, the device can be handed to the witness.
And if you have some difficulty, Judge, may I have permission to go to the witness, or could the bailiff help him?
Let's just see if the officer's able to sort through how to scroll the photos. Is it a touchpad? Can you swipe or do you have to use?
I
the
think he can arrow them down, Judge, or he.
Yeah, I can see the arrow to next. So you want me to go ahead and look at all these?
104A through the bottom of all of those, if you could.
I don't see where it's listed as like 104A. Oh, okay, it was on 104B when I got it.
And if necessary, you can zoom in if you need to.
You want me to go through how many? Sorry.
Just go through the end of them, and it's 104A through, I think there's about 15 photos. So if you could go through the list there.
Okay.
I don't need it now, but I will at some point. Thank you. Not today.
Yeah, I think I've looked through 104J.
Okay, and if I could have that, now, officer, do you recognize any of those photos?
Unless I previously stated, the only, if those came from 175, I was not, other than documenting the initial entry, I was not, from my body cam, what everyone saw, I was not involved in the search of 175. My directive was more in 174, so I don't recognize.
Okay. So other than the fact that you made mention of guns, you don't have any specific recollection of the items that are listed in these.
Mr. Pryor, please talk into the microphone.
You don't have any recollection of the items that are listed in that particular series of photos. Is that fair?
No.
Okay. So you don't have any recollection of recalling seeing any of those items in any of the photos. Is that fair?
Personally, no.
Okay. Did you find any other information through your investigation to determine whether any of those items are items that were found in any of the garages of the three parties you searched?
Restate that.
Through your investigation, were you able to ascertain whether any of those items were items that were obtained from the garage of the three parties that you searched?
I wouldn't be able to testify to that.
Okay. Okay. Now you spoke of the fact that you felt that the apartment of one of those folks was abandoned. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then you spoke of the fact that you felt that, at least you implied that you felt that Lori Vallow was fleeing. Is that correct?
Objection misstates the testimony.
Sustained.
How about you felt that she had abandoned the home? Is that what you were implying?
Objection, that also misstates the testimony.
Overruled.
I believe that in walking through 175, that the clothes were all missing and possibly the people left in haste.
Okay. Now, as part of your continuing investigation, did you come across any data that suggested tickets or purchase of tickets to Disneyland or to Knott's Berry Farm were made prior to your search on the 26th?
That's not something that I investigated personally.
Okay. Do you have some information that there was a trip planned by Chad Daybell's family 2 weeks prior to the search of the 26th?
I don't recall the date, but I do recall that there was possibly a trip to Disneyland or something, yes.
Okay, so this wasn't a situation where Mr. Daybell was trying to hide his whereabouts. He purchased tickets and planned a trip 2 weeks before this search to go with his family. You're aware of that, right?
Objection, Your Honor, that misstates the testimony. His testimony was about the apartment of Lori Vallow.
Sustained.
So the representation that you felt that the apartment was vacated by Lori Vallow, that doesn't imply that Chad Daybell was vacating his premises, does it?
Object
No.
house or speculation.
Overruled.
That doesn't mean Chad Daybell was vacating, was it?
Well, it wasn't Chad's home,
Right. It was Lori Vallow's home, right?
correct?
And then the other one was Alex Cox's home, correct?
Melanie Boudreau was next
Melanie
door.
Boudreau. Now you made mention of the Jeep and the search regarding the Jeep and regarding Brandon Boudreau, correct?
Search?
Yeah, the search to how to get the back seat out of a Jeep, right?
Okay. Thank you for clarifying
That's okay.
that search.
That's okay. And are you aware that Chad Daybell is not criminally implicated in the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreau?
Yes.
Okay. Now, we may revisit it, but on Exhibit 59, I think that was the initial 10-minute surveillance tape of you talking with Lori Vallow, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and on that tape, she made a number of representations. And during the 10-minute interview that you had with her, who was present with you at the time again? I'm sorry.
Lieutenant Ball and Officer Kellen Wetton was also there.
Okay. And during that 10-minute interview of her, you folks decided to leave. Is that correct?
Yes, with the understanding that they were going to get a hold of us of JJ's whereabouts.
Okay. And during that interview with Miss Vallow, she indicated to you that her friend, and I don't know if it was good friend, but her friend Melanie Gibb had JJ. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then you testified that you took some effort to get a hold of Miss Gibb, correct?
Correct.
And did you subsequently learn that you got a hold of Miss Gibb at some point shortly after that meeting with Lori Vallow?
That would have been later that evening that we finally got a hold of her.
And Miss Gibb confirmed at that time that she had JJ Vallow. Is that right?
No,
What did she say?
she said she did not have JJ.
Oh, well, isn't it true she lied to the police about the whereabouts of JJ Vallow on that day?
I don't know. I wasn't involved in that conversation.
Okay. Okay. So when you say that she said she didn't have JJ, how do you know that? If you weren't involved in the conversation?
Because the next day is when law enforcement obtained a warrant because she had stated to officers that she did not have him.
Okay. So your recollection is that Melanie Gibb did not lie to the police initially about having JJ Vallow? Is that what you're saying?
Objection, he's misciting the testimony.
Overruled.
Is that what you're saying?
Ask the question again, please.
So what you're saying is that you got the search warrant because Melanie Gibb said she did not have JJ Vallow? Is that what you recall?
That's what I recall.
Okay. Now, during the conversation with Lori Vallow, she made a number of representations. She made some mention of the fact that she was going to be moving back somewhere with Melanie Gibb. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And that her and that JJ and Melanie were at a Frozen movie or something? You recall that?
She said that Melanie and JJ were most likely at the movie Frozen
Okay.
2.
Okay. So from what you heard her say about moving back, the fact that you felt that the apartment, when you went back for the search warrant, was abandoned, did you look into the possibility that Melanie Gibb had made plans to leave Rexburg, Idaho and move back with Melanie Gibb in Arizona?
Melanie Boudreau
Melanie Gibb
was moving back where?
with Melanie Gibb. Lori Vallow was moving back with Melanie Gibb to
Okay,
Arizona.
you said Melanie
Yeah,
Gibb
and
was
I-
moving back.
And I apologize for that. I'll rephrase that. I misstated that, excuse me. Did you look into any information that would support the idea that Lori Vallow, after she abandoned that unit 175, had the intent to permanently move back with Melanie Gibb?
Well, she had told us that, so we were looking into that possibility,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So at this point, what you have is you have information that would suggest Lori Vallow may not have been honest about the whereabouts of JJ Vallow, correct?
Correct?
And you had information that at least her friend Melanie Gibb was accused of having JJ, correct?
She stated that Melanie had JJ, yes.
And at some point, Melanie Gibb contacted law enforcement, which gave you concern as to where JJ was, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, as part of all of these records and all of this information, you didn't look at Melanie Gibb's phone records, did you?
Not at this time, no.
Well, at this time, we're in trial right now, sir.
Right.
So when are you planning on looking at the records? A week from now or a month from now?
Objection argumentative.
Sustained.
You never looked at David Gibb's or David Warwick's records either, did you, sir?
Nope.
Okay. Are you aware of the circumstances regarding September 23rd and 22nd and 23rd of the last known existence of JJ Vallow?
The
Sir?
circumstances?
Yeah, the circumstances surrounding his disappearance on those days. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to.
Are you familiar of who was with JJ Vallow or in the close proximity of JJ Vallow on the 22nd of September, the day he was at least last observed?
There was a number of people that were at Lori's residence, yes.
Right. And one of those people was Melanie Gibb, correct?
Correct?
One of those people was David Warwick, correct?
Correct.
And you're trying to locate JJ Vallow, and Lori Vallow on this tape says to you, my good friend Melanie has JJ, right?
Correct.
And you didn't look or bother to look into either David or Melanie Gibb's phones, did you?
No.
Would you agree with me that Miss Vallow was very convincing?
No.
You wouldn't?
No.
Okay, well, you showed up and were there for 10 minutes, right?
Correct.
She talked to you about a number of things and made a number of statements, and would you agree that a good number of those statements were not truthful?
That's correct.
And yet you didn't take any sort of action to detain her or to hold her, any type of any sort of action that way, law enforcement action to detain her, to hold her from fleeing on the 26th, right?
Correct.
Okay. Then you went back again and talked to her, correct?
On that same day?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And then again, you didn't take any action, correct?
Well, we hadn't established that JJ was not with Melanie Gibb at that time. Therefore, we had no reason to detain her.
Now, I noticed during the tape recording that there was a comment that was made right after the first visit with on the recording. And if we have to go back, please tell me if you don't remember, we can revisit that. But after you left Lori Vallow's apartment, you made the comment, not. Do you remember saying that?
I do.
Yeah, and not, if I understand correctly, and please correct me, is a situation where that's sort of a code word for telling law enforcement to turn off your body cams and not record what you were about to talk about, correct?
That would be correct.
So in other words, as part of this investigation, you chose that we're going to not allow these statements to be recorded. That we're going to stop this body cam because we don't want to reveal or provide the information that the three of you officers were going to discuss. Is that correct?
Objection argumentative.
Overruled.
Is that correct?
Yes, we were going to state our opinions.
Okay. We didn't get the benefit of your opinion then because you turned off the cam, right?
That's right.
And at the conclusion of the second body cam, did you do a little knock knock there too?
No.
Okay. Ms. Vallow also mentioned that Alex Cox was her protector, right?
That's correct.
And you made mention that Melanie Gibb was not answering her phone, correct? You testified about that?
Yes.
And you made mention that Lori Vallow was not responding as well to phone calls, correct?
Later, yes.
Okay, how many phone calls did you make to Chad Daybell seeking information about JJ?
Myself, I did not make
Okay.
any.
Okay. And there was no warrant to search Chad Daybell's property at that time, is that correct?
That's correct.
And through your research of all of the devices, you didn't find an email or Facebook posting or text that said from Chad Daybell saying, Lori, let's kill the kids. You never found anything like that, right?
I did not.
Now, during the search of the of one of the apartments, I noted this, and I noted this before. You made it, and you know everybody who was at the apartment during the search, right?
Most likely.
Body cam, most likely, or did you?
What about the body cam?
The body cam search of the three apartments, you knew everybody who was in there at that time, correct?
I'm sure I did.
Okay, all right. And at the time, you made a comment during one of the searches, and you said something to the effect, going that way, Rob.
Okay.
Who's Rob?
That would have been Prosecutor Rob Wood.
Okay, so Prosecutor Rob Wood was present during the execution of the search and review of which apartment were you searching when you told Rob going that way?
I believe that was 175.
Okay, Lori Vallow's.
Correct.
Okay. Did you have any information as to where Chad Daybell was living after he got back from his Knott's Berry Farm trip?
I can only speculate
Okay.
from what I had heard.
All right. Now, you mentioned the fact that you also tapped some phone calls. Is that correct?
No.
That you sought a warrant to place, go ahead.
A tap is to listen to somebody. We did not listen to anybody.
Okay. Did you do any location? And I don't know what the proper word is. The warrant that you searched to be able to do a location on someone's phone like you did in this particular case. What's the term of that again? I'm sorry.
Tap and trace.
Tap and trace. That's right. I thought I had the first word right. So did we happen to do a tap and trace on Melanie Gibb and David Warwick's phone as well?
No.
Okay. So the link to get Chad Daybell's phone information. That was based on the fact that you saw Chad and Lori holding hands at the Hobby Lobby and that they were married at that time, correct?
Can you give me a little more than link?
All right. The reason for the search warrant to get Chad Daybell's phone is that he was married to Lori Vallow, correct?
Yes.
There was no indication that he had any involvement in the disappearance at that time of JJ Vallow, correct?
Other than he wasn't responding to our requests.
Well, he wasn't responding to yours because you didn't call him, right?
Well, I believe attempts were probably made to his phone, not by myself.
Okay. And the question is that you said probably. So you really don't know the length and extent of what was taken to contact Chad Daybell, do you?
That's right.
So when you testified earlier today, when you said attempts were made to contact Chad Daybell, you really don't know what the attempts were made, do you?
I can't be specific, no.
Well, you can't give us any information because you don't know, isn't that right?
Objection argumentative.
Overruled.
You don't know, do you?
Pryor, Mr. Pryor. Once I make a ruling, then the witness gets to answer the question, so don't jump in with another question like that.
I'm sorry, Judge. You can answer it.
I know attempts were made.
Now, on the subject of cell tower information, cell tower information coverage is really designed to show a phone company has an area, specific area covered, correct?
Roughly.
Yeah. And it's not a way to locate where a device is. It's not appropriate to use cell tower coverage to show where a phone is in a particular location, is it?
It would be of the three methods, the least accurate.
Okay. Well, the least accurate would be there's cell towers that are shooting down a coverage area, and what the least accurate is that that's showing that potentially the phone's in that designated area that covered by the cell tower, right?
Of three areas, yes.
Right. Okay. So the wedding photos, it's not unusual to have photos of a wedding, is it?
No.
And you don't know on that thumb drive that you said the family pictures of Mr. Daybell, you don't know whether those were copied to another thumb drive, do you?
I do not.
And just the photos of themselves are not anything peculiar or particularly alert to anything, correct?
Are you talking about the wedding photos?
The wedding photos, yeah.
No.
And did you research why people use malachite?
It has something to do with spirituality and other things.
Okay. And you have no information that Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow, prior to the searches of the malachite rings and the purchase of the rings, had ever discussed getting married. Is that right?
Not that I know.
Okay. Judge, could I have one moment, please?
You may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Judge, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That concludes the cross-examination then. Mr. Wood, any redirect?
Just briefly.
Very well.
Detective, you were asked about doing a search on Melanie Gibbs' phone and David Warwick's phone. Correct?
Correct?
You testified earlier about a geofence.
Yes.
Did Melanie Gibb or David Warwick's phones show up in that geofence?
No.
And you asked about Melanie Gibb and David Warwick and doing a tap and trace on them. And you didn't do that, correct?
That's correct.
At the time you did tap and trace warrants on Lori and Chad, was Melanie Gibb cooperating with law enforcement?
Yes.
So you didn't have to do a tap and trace to find her.
No, we were in communication with her.
You were asked about any link between Chad and the search for JJ, correct?
Correct.
Where was JJ Vallow's body found?
On Chad Daybell's property.
Were any of Melanie Gibb or David Warwick's kids found on Chad Daybell's property?
No.
Grounds? The objection's untimely, overruled.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
All right, that'll conclude the testimony then of Officer Stubbs. I'm going to inquire of the state, is there a potential that this witness is going to be recalled for further questioning during trial?
Your Honor, it's not likely. We have with our law enforcement officers, though, decided we're probably not going to release them just in case we need them for rebuttal.
Okay, well, in that case, then Officer Stubbs, you are still subject to the court's exclusionary order, so please don't follow the trial or watch the trial in any way after you step down in case you're recalled, unless you're advised by the prosecutors you can do so. If you are recalled, I'll be inquiring on whether or not you've abided by that instruction. Thank you for providing your testimony. You can go ahead and step down and I'll let the state call another witness.